Morning everybody. Now you've seen I've got playlists there that is product testing, and I've done a range of paints, and as time goes on there's more paints that get added to that playlist. Now there's a lot of people who are in the trade that find this very interesting because I'm testing out quite a few paints that we use as a firm, Beckwith Decorators, and also the quality paints. So it is geared up more for the let's call it the higher end of your budget when it comes to paint purchases. I thought let's bring it back down to a few of the paints that I've done before. Now, probably one of my early videos was trying the no nonsense satin, quick drying satin paint, and I think I've still got a tin down in my studio, and I tried that. I thought it was all right. It was a paint. It was a cheap enough paint. I think was it about 23 quid for a 2.5 litres. Can't remember. But ScrewFix now aren't really selling no nonsense brand paint. They've moved on, and you've seen the thumbnail. It's the Fortress. It's the Fortress range of paints, and it's the Fortress Trade. So clearly, this is geared up for the trade painter and decorator. Now, we know sometimes we need to get hands on paint over a weekend, and you know what ScrewFix is like. I'm not saying they're open 24/7, but they are open seven days a week. So if it's a Sunday and you're needing a tin of paint and you just want something cheap and cheerful, I'm going to say cheap and cheerful, they do paints that accommodate your budget. And I don't want to say it's like a budget as in too cheap, but this tin here, and this is what today's video is going to be, we're going to try the Fortress Trade, and it's the primer and undercoat, and it's for walls and wood. So it's a contender to actually be used on Dave the Door. So going back to this is a litre tin. It's a water-based product. It's quick drying. Recoat time is roughly about 2 hours. And if you read, I always say, read the instructions on the back. The recoat time's 2 hours, and it is actually saying that it is ideal for you to get a good base to build up from. Use 2 coats. Now, I've got Dave the Door, that you've probably seen Dave the Door over the last year or so, has had a lot of paint on it. It was burnt off originally, and we've now got a lot of paint on that has been sanded down. And I've literally sanded it all down with the DeWalt hand sander. You'll see a review there of that brilliant bit of kit, and you'll probably find a link to my Amazon store that sells it. So the door's been sanded down well, and I'm ready to start bringing it up with some more paints for future videos. Now, future videos on this section, we'll have a series of 3 videos. We'll start with what the primer's like. Let's call it an acrylic primer undercoat. I'm going to start with this as one video on here, and then I will be moving on to trying satin, and I've also got the gloss. So everything is content. We can make 3 videos out of this paint brand, which is Fortress. Cost-wise, because I'm saying it's a budget, it's a cheaper paint. $8.99 for a litre. It's not bad. Is it any good? We will see. And the satins and the glosses, they were about £13. So it's not cost me a fortune to try these paints out. Nobody's sponsoring me. It'd be lovely if ScrewFix would reach out to me and say, we've got a new product I'd like you to try. Unfortunately, I don't think I'm that sort of influencer that I'm getting that. Bring. Yeah, never mind. So today, we've got Dave the Door, well sanded down. We've got bare areas. This is what we want. We've got bare areas, because this is where normally I would say to anybody, if you're coating a door up like this that's got chips, bare areas, and you've sanded it down, your bits which are showing bare wood through, you would spot prime. You just scrub your brush over it, just give it a little bit of primer, let it dry off. Probably it's dried off within half an hour. You can give it a full coat. I want to get some build up of paint on this. I will give it 2 coats of this primer undercoat. The first coat will be hitting in effect where these bare parts are, and it's all the way down the door. Once that's dried, I'll be giving it a second coat for the body, for the opacity, for the build-up onto the surface. Once that's done, we'll do this over the next few hours because I've got a heater on in here just to get the air warm. Once it's dry, and we can do a bit of a review of what it looks like in its dry state for actually being an acrylic base primer undercoat in white on Dave the Door. And then future videos from this, if I've got time, I might do today, might do tomorrow, might do next weekend. I will start with the satin and then we'll try the gloss. And what I'll do in between is put a coat of undercoat on before I put the top coats on, just to give us an even base for everything to start with the same layer of paint. But we'll be talking about the glosses and the satins on the sounds like I'm a proper northerner, sounds like I'm from Leeds. My dad's from Leeds. Never mind. So today's video, I'm going to get my brush out, which I've got because it's in front of me. We're using the Knorr. I'm going to use the Knorr Special. It's the heritage brush from Knorr. I really like this brush. I'm trying to keep consistent with actually coating up everything with the same brush bristle. If you've not seen these before, please have a look at the reviews that I've done on it or used it on other videos. It's a lovely, got to sniff the bristle. It's a lovely brush to actually use. So consistency wise, I'm going to be coating up with this brush on there. You could be rolling it if you wanted, but brushwork's the key. Everybody can roll, not everybody can brush. Yeah, so I'm going to get some paint out and let's start. I'll fast forward through the painting, but I'll interject with some comments on what the paint's like. Because as I've said on a lot of videos, I'm trying these paints cold. Literally, never tried it before. And I want to get a first impression of opening the tin, smelling it, smelling the paint, seeing what it feels like, feeling what the actual paint applies like, seeing how it flows out and all the bits in between, because this is what you would be doing if you've never tried this paint and you want to know what it's like for the first time around. There's no point me going to a paint and saying this is brilliant, I've used this for the last umpteen years. I want to come in as you would do, what's this paint like? So without further ado, I'm going to take my coat off and I'm going to get some paint in my paint kettle. Right, we're ready to go. Now, as I'd like to interject, I've just come to take the lid off this, and I've got a couple of different styles of can opener. I'm on a negative already. I've struggled opening that lid with one of these can openers. You know, a traditional can opener, you can see that, like that. I've got one of these that's got one that side and one that side. And what you're supposed to do is just under the lid, lift it up. Now, the lid is so tight with not much lip around the rim that you can't get, i.e. one of these can openers underneath it, to the point that I've gone below. Can you see that? Yeah, you can see. I've gone below the lip of the can lid and I've actually gone to the lip that is part of the makeup of the actual tin. And I've started to prise that up from the can and not the lid. Prising it up that way, then release the lid so I could get underneath it. So that's a bit of a negative already. I struggled opening the can lid. But that said, I've gave it a mix up. I'm going to give you a bit of stats on this, or stats I'm going to tell you. It does say on the side of the can, quick dry times, 2 hours recoat. It is an interior exterior. It is for wood and masonry, so you can use it on most surfaces. Always check the technical data sheet if in doubt. But I've mixed it up as it says. It mixed nicely, no problem there. I've just got a mixing stick. I've just touched my nose. Oh God, how silly is that? Not really much smell to it. I can't really tell what smell I've got there. Sometimes you smell a real ammonia smell to some of these acrylic undercoats, but I've not smelt that at the minute. Right, I am all dusted down on that. I don't need to tack rag it because it has actually been sanded nicely and dusted. Now, if you don't know about painting a door, please look at that. I know there's a lot of people who think they know how to paint a door, but I'm telling you, you don't. There is a link there to actually how to paint a proper panel door. And it all consists of starting with your moulding, filling in with your main panel there, dropping down to your panels below, i.e. your mouldings and your centre panels in between, and then coming, filling in all the other bits in between. But there is videos for that. Right, let's go with this. It does feel very thin as I'm putting it in my kettle. And I'm going to, if Alex is watching, I'm sick of seeing people, I'm going to do it on this, doing this, slapping a brush about either side of the paint kettle. You don't do it like that. That is to me a telltale sign of what training you've actually had. And it actually probably means you've not had any. If you've been trained by a proper traditional painter and decorator, tradesman, master painter, they will show you that you work from one side of the kettle, like I'm doing, one side of the kettle, you rotate your brush round and you're tapping, you're picking up paint and tapping at the same time, little taps, all on one side of the kettle. Can you see that? I'm rotating it round. And you work from one side of the kettle, you wipe down from one side of the kettle. When you clean it all out, it all dries out and you come back the next day and you can work from the other side of the kettle. You don't be slapping it about every side of the tin, because that's where your painters are covered in paint. Listen to mother. Right, we're going in. That feels very thin, but thin is quite good for application purposes, because it means you're not going to get heavy, fatty brush marks in it. Now, over the white that I've already got on this door, we're looking quite promising. Where we've got the rub outs, i.e. where I've sanded there, we are looking a little bit transparent on the actual paint. And again, I'm sorry if you don't see it on the video, this is why I'm just talking you through what I'm actually seeing. I'm getting it on. I'm just looking, right. Your crow's nesting, you're getting it on every direction. Wipe your brush down. If you already know how to do this, fast forward. If you're a decorator watching me paint, obviously your life's as sad as what I am painting, watching paint dry. Right, I've crow's nested it. You get it on every direction. Then with your tips of your bristles, you literally horizontal, lay it all out. Get the flow going. Flow it all out. Wipe your brush down again because you don't want to put any more on. Start with your top corner, get your tips in and start laying off. The more you do, the more you'll get into this. You see I'm taking a few from the top, a couple from the bottom, staggering where I'm actually laying it off, and that flows out. Then just with the tips of the bristles, just whip around the moulding. Now, that's gone on very nice. Not much body to it. And I think that's probably why you'll need two coats, particularly if you've got bare wood showing. But if you've got just ordinary rub down woodwork, I think you'd get away with one coat. So, right, let me crack on with this. I'll fast forward it and I'll see you after I've given it two coats. I will allow a couple of hours drying time and make sure I come back to it when it's properly dry. And I will show you what it's like with two coats on it. So, thanks for bearing with me and I will see you later on. Just back before we get this second coat on, it's been a good couple of hours now. Noticing opacity, and I'll call it coverage. Opacity, coverage. I'm still seeing the bits of dark coming through where the bare wood was. Just a bit there, and some of the edges. First initial touching, feels a dry finish, what you'd expect with a primer undercoat in effect. I think there are some primers that I've used previously that are a primer undercoat prior to top coats going on. I've got a little bit more sheen to it, i.e. when you put your next coats on, they're not going to soak as much into that drier base. But all in all, that doesn't seem too bad. I'm just going to get a coin. Remember coins? Can you remember coins? Yeah, I've got coins. It's £2 coin. I'm just going to do a bit of a scratch on there. You can't see it. It's actually left the residue of a coin marking it. Now, you always get that with coins scratching in scratch testing, but I have to say I've not scratched any paint off, and one of the USPs for this is the adhesion properties. It does say on the can, it does say there, excellent adhesion. Yeah, and it has actually adhered. So on that note, let's get this painted up again for the second coat, and we'll give it a sum up at the end, and I'll allow it to dry. See you in a bit. True to my word and back. You saw that little bit I've just spoke about seconds ago prior to me coating up. Yeah, we've coated up. Where we've marked it with the coin is showing through. I don't know whether you can see that. We've still got that showing through. The opacity isn't there, but I will say it applies lovely. With it feeling a thinner consistency, the viscosity, it's not thick. It goes on quite nice. So if you're an amateur DIYer or somebody that just likes to put on an easier paint, this is really good. It is that dry finish like I mentioned before, so I'm expecting when I put the satin or the gloss over the top, which will be in other videos, I would expect that first coat to actually absorb into that surface quite well to give you a nice base for your second coat. Always 2 top coat with these. But no, the grip primer element, it's going through me like nails down a blackboard. I think there is quite a good grip element to it. Now, interestingly, I'm going to try this. While I was waiting, I've got some UPVC samples. I've got some UPVC samples that I've cleaned down, usual, sand it down, wiped it with some cellulose thinners, and out of interest, I'm going to leave that about a week with a coat of that on, and I will see what it's like as a grip primer for stuff like UPVC. That's just a section of UPVC that I've managed to get hold of, and we'll see what it's like. I might even just give it a second coat to give it a fair crack at, can't say that. I might edit that. I might give it a second coat to give it a fair crack at the whip for what it says. Always give it 2 coats over something that's, well, I don't know whether you'd need it, but I might give it 2. I might section it off to do 2 and then 1, and then we can coat it up with some of the satin to see what it's like. But that'll be another video just out of interest to see how good the grip is. Now, adhesion, shall we call the word adhesion? That, quite pleased how it's applied. I will just say it's a little bit grinny. It's not covered brilliantly. But as I'd say to you, if you have got areas that you need to just spot prime first, brush it on. Brush it on first over the areas that are bare. Or if you've got a totally bare surface, you would be doing the whole area with a coat of paint anyway. And then you would give it a second coat, because in effect, this is a primer for bare. You prime, your undercoat, and then your top finish. Two coat top finish. So treat it like that. This, in effect, has had a primer on it, which primes the bare areas. It also went over the well sanded down paint surface that was already there, and then we've given it that second coat. So all in all, not bad at all. It is a budget paint. This is coming in at, what did I say, £8.99 a tin. So for a litre of paint that's £8.99, and it's going to give us that property of excellent adhesion. And it says on the side of the can, suitable for interior and exterior walls, wood and masonry, and it's quick drying. What more do we want than that? I'm not sure. Well, the brushes wash out really nicely. Got to sniff the bristle. Thanks for listening to me. Please stay on this channel for the follow-ups when we'll use the satin and the gloss over the top of this. And let's just see whether we can find a decent, cheap, budget paint that's suits our needs. Who knows? Videos at the end.